Welcome to the Puzzle of Us podcast. I'm your host, Chelsea Peterson. I'm the owner of Cache Valley Counseling, and I've been doing couples counseling for almost 20 years now. And I just love that I get to share little snippets of knowledge of things I hear. You know, it's always interesting when you tell people you're a marriage and family therapist and you specialize in couples. You know, it's kind of like sitting next to someone on a plane, and that can either be a really great thing or not so great for me. It becomes free therapy for them. So I hear lots of things throughout just because I do what I do and I sit with people in the ways that I sit with people. You know, just telling people who I do get sometimes unsolicited information, and I love to be able to use this platform to be able to share a little bit of the tidbits and knowledge with you. So thanks for tuning in. Thanks for listening. And thanks to all of our loyal listeners. Hopefully you learned something. That's really the hope of this. This kind of topic actually comes from a similar situation that I was just talking to. I was telling someone I was a marriage and family therapist, and they were like, "Oh, so you get to hear everyone's like dirty dirt." And anyways, the conversation turned into yes, and how do couples find a way to connect and talk without always having to be awkward or doing some big, long, drawn out checklist or feeling like we're in trouble with each other or that we're always disappointing each other. And so this comes from, you know, just an idea that I've shared with many couples throughout the year of like, how do we have these check-ins of like, what's going great in our marriage, right? You think about job interviews or when you work at a job and you have your like quarterlies or your yearly meetings with your superiors or your bosses or people, and they tell you some of the things. Typically, I mean, a good place of employment, I think, usually will tell you some things that you're doing really well, right? And then they usually also tell you some areas that you could maybe improve in. And usually, what do you walk away from remembering? Do you remember anything that they said that you did well? Most of us, not usually, right? What we end up remembering are the bad things or the things that need work. And that's part of our human nature, and that is no different with us in our relationships. So if we are always talking about the things that we need to improve, you know, I really wish you helped me with the dishes more. I wish we had sex more. I wish, you know, you cared about finances. I wish that you didn't hate my family. I wish, like, all of those things, if we were talking about and only talking about the negative things, no wonder relationships are so hard. So I like to encourage people to try and check in with each other in a way that is not awkward, in a way that can help build and buoy up your relationship, and a way that can kind of say, what are the things that we're doing well in our relationship? You know, I really love these times in our relationship. I love, you know, sitting with you at night. I love our morning coffee. I love our walks with the dogs. I love, like, what are the times that you enjoy together and that you think are really working well as a couple, and what things could we do better? And so we're going to spend today kind of outlining a couple different ways that you could do, you know, this check-in with each other. How frequently? What do they look like? What are we focused on? And give you some ideas to kind of build your own way to check in with each other, to check in with your partner that isn't awkward, that doesn't feel suffocating, that allows you to air grievances or talk about what could be better or talk about your struggles in the relationship and individually, as well as be able to, again, have that be a place of comfort that really kind of buoys you up, either individually and as a couple. Hopefully that's the case. So we're going to dive right in here. Okay, so when do we do these check-ins? You know, you can certainly do them when things feel heavy or we need to repair things, or maybe there's been a misstep or a disconnection that's happened in the relationship. You know, just the other day, shortly after the holidays, there was a couple that I was doing therapy with that told me of an experience of, like, they were headed into one family's place to celebrate, I think it was Thanksgiving. And they went there and they had a good time, but they didn't really discuss before, like, well, when are we leaving and what's expected and how long are we staying, because they had made other arrangements to go with the other side of the family as well. And so when they it was time to go, there was kind of this upheaval of like, well, we didn't stay very long, and now what are we doing at your family's? And there just was this like awkwardness. And so of course it didn't go well. They got through the day, they ended up leaving and doing the holiday stuff. And then afterwards they were able to talk about, okay, like what didn't go well? What were the expectations, and how can we avoid this in the future? And so they were able to make a plan. And then quickly, because it was the holiday season and now we have Christmas and New Year's and all the holiday stuff coming up, they were actually able to set expectations for what they needed to do before they went there. Again, this is just an example. There's lots of ways that this can happen, grocery stores, finances, sex, parenting, even just interactions with random neighbors, things like that. There's always going to be missteps or miscues, and handling them right in the moment. Sometimes people, it's so heated that it usually never goes well. And so doing these sort of check-ins of like, how did that go for you? It seemed like there was a rough moment in there, or it seemed like there was a misstep or a miscommunication. How do we do that differently? Those conversations are most successful when they happen after, and then go back and listen to some other previous conversations about how do we have that conversation and not get heated, and how do we keep our nervous system under control. Not the focus of this podcast, so I'm not going to go into that too much, but making sure that your nervous system is able to respond. And the purpose of these check-ins, okay, purpose of these check-ins is when you're able to check in with each other and feel better afterwards. Another couple that I was talking about using these check-ins with that has gone really successful for them is that they use them once a week. They check in with each other. They do it on a Sunday night, but you could do it whenever. They kind of do it as a weekly planning for their upcoming week. They go over schedules and that sort of stuff. But then they also use it as a check-in, both for individual self and for their couple, like for their relationship. So they know that there is a chance every week that they are going to get to talk about things that didn't go so well for them and things that went well for them. Again, this is just an example of how to structure it, and maybe you can use their example or find one that works for you. But they always start with a prayer, and they always start with a loving embrace. So they hug each other, they start with a prayer, and then they kind of have an agenda that they go through. Okay, what are the good things that I noticed about our relationship this week? So they start with the good. I appreciated this. Thank you so much for folding the laundry when I didn't ask you to. That really meant a lot to me. Whatever it is, they try and give each other 2 or 3 compliments. And then after that, if there is ever a time that is needed of like, hey, this part of our week didn't go so well for me. When I asked you to mow the lawn and you told me no, that was a blow to my self-esteem, or that really put a burden on me. Or when I felt really alone, when you completely avoided checking in with me after your soccer game this week and you were gone for 5 hours and didn't bother to let me know that you were just chatting with some people and you'd be home later, right? These are all examples of things, of just ways that they talk about like, hey, this didn't go so well for me. And they do it in a way, again, try not to blame, trying not to criticize each other, but just saying, hey, this is an area that didn't feel so great for me this week. An area that I didn't feel seen by you, an area that I felt more of a burden, or I felt more like I wasn't seen or heard or important to you. And those are the areas that they try and focus on, not areas of like big annoyances, right? Like, I'm annoyed that, this is a personal example, I'm always annoyed when my husband puts the toilet paper on the toilet roll the wrong way, right? And so every time, every week I could say, I hated it when you put the toilet paper on the toilet roll. Those types of like annoyances or grievances, or you put the knives in the dishwasher wrong, or you didn't put away the groceries right, or whatever. They, again, not super helpful to go into those small arguments. But again, those focusing on the areas that I felt unimportant or less important, or like I didn't matter to you. And so if there were those moments that felt that way for you, making sure that you're able to voice those in these kind of weekly check-ins. So giving you again, back to the example of how they move through this. Then they do the calendaring for the week and what they have coming up. And then they go over any expectations that they might have for like, oh, this is out of the ordinary and this is my expectation for this. And, if there's things that they've done in the past or not special things that they have to kind of plan for, then they don't necessarily have to go through that. It's just kind of a weekly thing. There's open nights, they look at filling it with date nights and things like that as well. And then they end with another prayer, and they end with an embrace. And the embrace, usually they do try and do it for 6 to 10 seconds. Again, just letting their nervous system really breathe that in. I know that seems like a lot, and the first couple of times you do it, it will take you a while to move through that because it's awkward and we've never done it before and we stumble over it. So give yourself half hour, 45 minutes, and set a time limit of like, this is our time limit. This is what we have. This is the time that we have to put towards our relationship, and we're going to keep it within this time constraint. If you're having a good conversation and you're enjoying each other, then sure, let it run over. But then there's like a stopping point for everybody. Everybody's kind of on the same page. The expectation is set. When you go into a meeting at work, there's typically a time constraint, right? Or when you go to a parent-teacher conference or something like that, there's usually a time constraint, right? So I know I'm only going to have 15 minutes to have this conversation. When they first start these conversations, it does take half hour, 45 minutes, sometimes an hour. But they try to keep it, to limit it to an hour conversation. As they do it more and more, and this particular couple has been doing it this way for a number of years, they're at about 15, 20 minutes. Because they're able to respond to each other and they're able to say, okay, yep, I'm sorry I didn't respond to you in the way that you needed. How do you need me to respond to you differently? They're able to air those grievances knowing that we're not here to attack each other. We don't have to defend ourselves. Those things are able to help them move through the conversation quickly, but also feel seen and heard by their partner. Okay, so let me give a brief overview again, just if you're following along here, writing it down, here's the steps. Start with some sort of connecting thing, whether that be a hug or something that helps to remind us that we're doing this together to form a better team. Whether that's we listen to our wedding song or we remind each other, just simply say like, we're in this together and we're doing this to better our relationship. That is the goal of this. We are both on the same page. We both want the same thing. And that oftentimes can come in, a hug or a physically connecting moment. So some way to connect physically, to remind each other that you're in this together, you're doing this together as a team. And then starting with the things that we're doing well, that what's going on well between us right now. Things that really helped us stay connected, things that went well this week. And then things that maybe didn't help you feel seen and heard or important to your partner this week. Things that maybe I didn't say in the moment or things that I didn't show bothered me in the moment. And then end with ways that you're going to connect this week. And sometimes that's scheduling or knowing, outlining expectations of, what the week is, and then filling that with ways to even feel and be more connected this week. And you can completely leave the scheduling part out of this. This is what worked for this couple. I'm just using this as an example, but they use it again as a way to kind of, this is what we got going on this week. And this is how we're going to use it to stay connected. Can we fit in a date night here? Tuesday night looks free. What are we going to do to connect? Are we going to use that as a night to explore together as a family or to maybe do our individual things so that we're more prepped and ready and our cups are more filled to spend time with each other later in the week or whatever it is. That's how they use them. And so calendaring can be a good way to plan on how to connect with each other. But calendaring can just be like calendaring or scheduling stuff too. And then end again with a connecting moment, a way of this is connecting us. We are trying to be connected. We're doing this because we are a team.
Hey, Chelsea here. I wanted to tell you about our relationship course titled Blueprint to a Lasting Relationship. It helps you navigate the core dynamics of your relationship. You'll discover your partner's conflict resolution style, how to discuss money, religion, intimacy, and so much more. If you want to build a stronger relationship with the love of your life, then click below to learn more.
Some other things just to kind of consider. Do's and don'ts for healthy check-ins, really trying to use I statements of I felt this way or this was my experience, and using that really helps people to stay out of blame. When we start blaming each other, we often then, we get defensive, our hackles kind of go up, and we start attacking or defending ourselves, attacking our partners, and our tone changes to a harsher tone. So really trying to stay curious, trying to stay using those soft tones, really trying to stay connected in these can really help. Try not to make it a complaint session. Try not to bring in past arguments or really expect instant fixes. Really use it as a way of like, I'm just letting you know how I'm feeling or how I felt during the week, and I just want you to be aware of it. And are there ways that we can avoid or change this so that it doesn't happen in the future? It really is okay to feel a little awkward in these, especially the first couple times you do it. The first handful of times, I always tell people, in the analogy I always use, is no one gets on a bike and just takes off riding the first time. These conversations are often like riding a bike. You've got to get on. And I mean, I have a son that's been riding a bike for a couple of years now, and he's without training wheels, but every time he gets on, he's still got to kind of figure out the pedals, and it gets a little wobbly. And these relationship conversations, these check-ins, are a lot like that. It's like riding a bike. It's not going to be perfect. It's going to feel a little awkward. And the more you do it, the less awkward it will become, and the better you will be at really kind of checking in and saying, how are you doing? Maintenance for your relationship is very important, and this is just one way to do it. I just want to give you, again, kind of some prompts that can help you attune to your partner and might help these conversations go better. And you can use these exact words, and it's amazing, even though I'm telling them to you and you didn't naturally come up with them all by yourself, it doesn't make it any less genuine. So try them out when you're having these conversations. But here's some prompts for you. What's something I appreciate my partner that I haven't said lately? So if you were to say, what is something I appreciate about my partner that I haven't said lately? And can I also say, again, use these words, might sound ingenuine because they're my words, not yours, but your partner's nervous system will appreciate them. I really appreciate you for being you. Thank you for showing up for me. It really means a lot. It helps me feel seen and heard by you. Thank you for making time to have this conversation with us. I know it's not fun. I know it's a little awkward, and I appreciate your willingness. Again, those are going to feel awkward. They're going to feel forced. They're my words, not yours. If you can find your own, great. But just because you're saying them because I'm prompting you to, or giving you the idea, doesn't make them any less genuine when they come out. Some other things just to kind of think about. So something I appreciate about my partner that I haven't said lately, or what's a habit that we've let slide that used to bring us joy? What kind of connection am I craving right now? I love this question because sometimes, what I need right now is just to hang out and chill and not have any other pressure because we've got 20,000 things going on because it's summer and it's crazy. There's that. Or there's also, I actually need some fun. I need some adventure. I need to go have fun with you right now. And just being able to assess at various times, what kind of connection am I craving right now with my partner? What are some things that we used to do that we haven't done in a while that I actually am missing? Allow yourself kind of the space to think about that and fill in the gaps where they need. I really, really, really hope that by listening to this, you've caught some sort of fire, some sort of motivation for doing a very casual check-in with your partner. Keep it 10, 15 minutes for this first one. You don't have to go through all of that. Maybe even just take 5 minutes to give each other some compliments and see how your week goes. maybe take 5 or 10 minutes to go over scheduling and see how it goes. And then put the parts together, right? Don't overwhelm yourselves or you're never going to do it and you're not going to be consistent with it. So bite off what you can chew. Do what you can, 10 to 15 minutes. Clunky conversations can really bring closeness. It does not have to be this, scripted, beautiful, movie-esque moment where there's, doves flying in the background and wonderful music playing. That, unfortunately, is not going to happen. But a lot of these clunky conversations can help you feel close to your partner because you feel seen and heard and appreciated by your partner, and they're able to, you're prioritizing your relationship, you're prioritizing each other, and you're able to turn to each other and feel close. And these small check-ins really do help create space to talk about when bigger disconnections happen. We already have a space to talk about them. I can hold on to something instead of explode in the middle of, a random Tuesday in the middle of a grocery store. I can hold on to, I'm better able to push down some emotion or hold it for a minute, even though it doesn't feel great, because I know on Sunday or whenever you do this, my partner is going to hear me. My partner is going to take time to listen to me, and I can go back and I can let them hear this from me. So those things, again, are just those little small check-ins really do prevent big disconnections later on. And it creates this space to be able to have these conversations where connection really happens on a usual basis, on a predictable kind of schedule. And the couples that have told me that they're doing this and actively practice this, I can tell you it has become something that they almost need, that they seek for, that they yearn for. They look forward to it, not because it's awkward, but because they're able to feel that connection in those moments. So I hope that that's what these can become for any of you who are listening today. Thank you for listening to the Puzzle of Us podcast. I'm your host, Chelsea Peterson. We'll catch you next time.